WJCT's First Coast Connect, the station's flagship local program, has won 2 national awards for public radio news directors. In 2010 and 2012, the program captured first place in the Best Call-In Program category. First Coast Connect was recognized in 2011 and 2013 as Best Local Radio Show by Folio Weekly's Best of Jax Readers Poll, and Melissa has also been recognized as Folio Weekly's Best Local Radio Personality. As executive producer of the 904 Shadow on the Sunshine State, Melissa and WJCT received an Emmy in the documentary category at the 2011 Suncoast Emmy Awards. The 904 examined Jacksonville's status as Florida's murder capital. During her years in broadcast television, Melissa picked up 3 additional Emmys for news and feature reporting. Prior to joining WJCT, Melissa spent 3 years in the corporate communications field at Jacksonville's Dalton Agency. During her time with Dalton, she was cast in the HBO film Recount, playing what else? A reporter. Melissa is married with 2 children. She's a graduate of Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism and Communications. She's a featured blogger on the Huffington Post website and a fill-in columnist at Jacksonville's flagship newspaper, the Florida Times-Union. I'd like to introduce Melissa Ross.
Thank you so much. I couldn't tell you were nervous, by the way, that day. Yes. All right. Well, it's good to see all of you. How's everybody doing? How's everybody holding up? Okay. I know sometimes after lunch, things, our bodies kind of go into a little lull. And so we'll try to keep the energy up for you guys and keep this moving and keep this pace really lively. Now, Senator Aaron Bean, who is, of course, a JU alum. I don't know if you guys all knew that. He's just a few minutes behind, but he's on his way. So while we wait for him to arrive, we're going to introduce our other panelists. Ladies first, let's begin with Melanie Lawson, everybody. Melanie Lawson. Melanie, of course, is a familiar face here in Jacksonville. She's from Longwood, Florida, and is the earliest riser on the morning show at Channel 4. She kicks off the day at 4:30 a.m. Yes, ma'am. Anchoring the morning news and reporting on health stories. Melanie has 2 kids. Actually, Melanie told me her younger child is outside in the lobby. She is a multitasking mom. She brought her baby with her. Melanie is also, we need to point out, a board member for the Northeast Florida Healthy Start Coalition. So it's exciting to have Melanie Lawson here with us. All right. And another great panelist, Trey Czar, president of the Jacksonville Public Education Fund, is here. Trey, great to see you. Now, Trey has grown JPAP to do a very important voice for universal high-quality public education. JPAP conducts research, mobilizes the community, and advocates for common-sense solutions to improve student performance. Trey has worked as an organizer in San Francisco and taught in an inner-city school in Houston. He has worked as an assistant principal at the KIPP School in New Orleans. Trey has a master's degree from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. I didn't know that. Wow, that's great. And also attended the University of Florida as an undergraduate. So it's great to have Trey Czar with us. I know we already talked about it. And so let's get started, and the senator can join us when he arrives. So how this will work is we're going to ask the panelists a question and then give them each a couple of minutes to respond. And then if time allows, all of you will get the chance to talk to the panelists and ask them questions, which I've been told you're going to submit on index cards. Again, the hashtag on Twitter is JaxKids2015. So let's begin with Trey. How does a person or an organization get your attention when it comes to a community issue?
Well, I think it really depends on the issue and on the topic and on the recipient. For me, I'm a very logical thinker. So for me, it all has to come back to some level of data, facts, and statistics. I think that particularly in the child serving sector, and I include education in that, we're really good at telling stories. And those stories are important, but those stories are not backed up by enough data to make a case that this is a widespread issue affecting many people. It becomes very, very hard for advocates like all of us to see that message sink in. Sometimes those facts are economic development facts, sometimes they're criminal justice statistics, sometimes they're educational statistics. But you really get, for me, I think it really comes down to making a rational argument as to why this is the best move forward, and understanding, where the recipient sits, and some of that is, and I'm sure Senator Bean can speak more to that. But there's certain arguments that'll work better for one legislator or one city council person or one school board member against the other. We do a lot of work in our organization writing policy research papers. We've done some on just before the legislative session last year, we released one on changes in the school grade system. And we knew that the legislature was going to be facing an issue. It was a month before session. We sent it out and tried to get actionable information into the hands of key decision makers. And it was perfect timing for the decisions that they were going to be facing. So I think for us, it starts with facts, and then on top of those facts are where you can layer those personal and emotional stories that really catch someone's heart in addition to their head.
And Senator Bean is here. Good to see you.
It's good to see you. So much for sneaking in and only sliding in. So it's good to be with you. Thank you so much. And Trey, it's good to see you. How's it going? Good, Melanie Lawson. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
All right.
So while Senator,
Melissa, it's
good to see you. Yeah, you as well. And so Melanie, why don't you give your thoughts on how this group can get your attention when they're pitching you to get media coverage, and then we'll ask Aaron Bean the same question. When someone's trying to get your attention, and of course you get a lot of pitches, what stands out for you?
Media, we're storytellers, so you nailed it when you said that. We're looking for a story that is going to connect with our viewers. And what's interesting about it is that we have really a cross-section of viewers depending on which show you're pitching to. And so, for us, because we're television, we're looking for a great story. And then we're looking for people who will not only be able to tell us that story, but show us that story and kind of pull us in. Because we're not just words on paper, we're pictures and words. So if you're pitching a story and it sounds great on paper, you have to think about how that's going to look on TV. So are we going to go to a playground with a family who is affected by this story and see the kids interacting with their caregiver? Are we going to see the child in the pool who's learning to swim for the first time, and their family has no history of swimming, or maybe a family member drowned, but now we can see these kids having a good time in the pool. So, for us, it's the story, and then it's the pictures on how that story can then be shown, because it does no justice if I can't tell the story and show the story. But the good thing about our station and, a lot of the stations now is that we have these kind of long format shows, which are great because it allows us to tell stories in more time than we typically have. I mean, we tell our stories a minute 45, a minute 30, and sometimes they want a minute 15. So imagine, this is your life, this is your experience, and I had to tell it in a minute 15. That's hard to do. But because we have longer shows, we have interview opportunities as well. And so that lets us tell stories sometimes without the video and all the pictures that help to make it a complete story. But still, it's better if we can run pictures alongside that interview. So I think, anything that affects the community in a big way, affects a big cross-section of the community, will help us reach out to our viewers. Things that they can relate to are definitely stories that we're interested in.
Excellent. And Senator Bean, as a legislator, you obviously get appeals and requests from all over the place. What's an effective way to get your attention?
Thank you very much, Melissa, and good afternoon, everybody. What a great time to be with you. This school is absolutely beautiful and exciting. I can only imagine if people that graduated from this school, what
like
big
you?
things. That's right, I forgot I actually went to school here. First of all, I want to do something really quick, and because we're going to be family as we bond together, tell you something, it needs to be talked about. I'm just going to tell you exactly what happened. And it happened a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I think, Sunday morning. There was a family on their way to a Jaguar game. and they actually stopped off on their way to the game. They stopped off at the Townsend and Merrill Road McDonald's right down the street, right here in Arlington, stopped off on their way to the game, and they were only in McDonald's maybe 20 minutes. They went in McDonald's, and what they did, they left their 4 Jaguar tickets on the dashboard. They went in 20 minutes, and when they came out, somebody had broken into their minivan and left 4 more tickets on their dashboard. It's a joke. It's it was just a joke. I love the Jaguars. I love the Jaguars. Love them. But I tell you what, yeah, it was awful. Yeah. Exactly. Well, let me tell you, you know what I'm looking for? I am looking for, just like Melanie, just like Trey, I'm looking for passion. I'm looking for somebody that has really believes in what they are selling and has taken the ball. Speaking of football, you have taken the ball and put it on the 5-yard line for me. How about that? You've done the work. You've done the research. You have what we need. Bean, this is what we need. We've already done the work. Don't come to me and say, well, come to me or come to any legislature. This is not going to put you at the front of the line. You ought to do this or you should do that without doing anything yourself. It's not going to get us our attention. But you say, Senator Bean, we have done this. We've accomplished all this. And now we need your help. We've already raised this amount of money. And if you just gave us this much more, it would put us in the end zone and we would score. And that is certainly so much exciting things. So if you can put the ball on the 2-yard line, you're saying, well, what do we need Bean for then? Well, let me tell you, that's when the goal line defense is at its tightest. That's where you need help. So, but if you've done the work that far, then we're going to be able to partner together and punch it in the end zone and do big things.
So passion is key and showing accomplishment. Trezar, how do you react to that? That's something I know that you carry into your work with the public education fund.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think people relate to people, and if you're a terrible salesperson for your message, doesn't matter how important or worthwhile your clients or kids are, no one's going to receive that message. So you got to be a true believer. You got to come armed with the facts and the information, and then you got to make your case. And oftentimes in a very, very abbreviated short period of time, as you heard from some of the folks who spoke earlier. And I think the other piece that I think is really important is trying to find ways to keep that relationship going outside of a legislative session. Inviting legislators to events like here, never wasting an opportunity. So when you need something done, like a 1-year pause in school grades, you let folks know that they need to be thinking about that going into the legislative session. And
Just like
that. And the other piece I think is looking at who in your organizations, both on the staff and the board level, have those relationships. Because I think that really helps open some doors. Your board members may not be the best communicators of the message. You may be that, but if they can help get you in the door, help establish a personal connection between them and a legislator, and then say, and here's Ms. Jones, and Ms. Jones has the greatest ideas in sliced bread, it's much more likely to be received.
And if Melanie and then Eric could comment on that, building relationships is really key to getting an organization's message out. Can you speak to that a little bit, how you see that?
Well, it's funny. There are certain people that I know when I have an email from them, I'm like, okay, I'll read it. I actually will read it. Or a phone call comes in, and even if I'm busy, I'll take it real quick because I know they're going to be brief, thorough, and actually have something great to pitch. So it's you have to pitch the story, but then deliver the story too. Because then people who will pitch something, it'll sound great, and then we'll get there and nothing's put together. You don't have the faces, you don't have the stories, they don't tell it with the passion they need to. And I think that especially in the media, you have to know who you're calling, and even if they'll be able to help you, because everybody has a beat, and I do health stories. So if you call me with a great local health story, I most likely will do it. You don't want to call Jim Pickett, who's another reporter who does city stories and is always at the courthouse and at city council meetings, because he doesn't care about the health stories. That's just not his beat. Not that he doesn't care, but it's not his beat. So, I think you have to really know who you're calling, when you're calling them as well, because we have times in our day when we're really busy, like if I'm on air, don't call me, it's like an obvious thing. And we have a 9:15 meeting every day, so it's nice to call before the meeting, because that's when reporters go in, pitch their stories. So we're always praying for a phone call with a good pitch. So if it comes in, we walk in the meeting, you're like, oh, I did some research and I found out that this statistic exists, and I have the woman who can tell the story, the organization behind it that will support it, and boom, they're like, okay, go do your thing. You got it. So timing is really important, and those relationships also are very important, because you'll actually get the ear of the person you want, and then they know that you'll actually deliver what you're saying.
Senator Bean, do you agree?
Agree, but I have additional comments. And that is, first of all, a pause in school grades would be excellent, particularly if we allow anybody to go up. You can always get a better grade. You just don't go down a grade. And that may be something that we talk about or do. Okay, in my office last year in Tallahassee, get a call from people that want to meet with me about marijuana. Now, medical marijuana. I'm a conservative from Jacksonville. I'm not interested in marijuana, so they're not from our area. They're from Pensacola. So I'm not going to meet with them, and we're just too busy to meet. And they call back several times to meet. And my aide says, they are very persistent. I think you should meet with them. And I say, okay, I will meet with them, but only for 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, you are going to come in my office and tell me that I have an important meeting or something else, so I leave or that they leave. Is that a deal? Yes. So I meet with, not that I don't know what I was expecting, but a couple that they look like me and my wife. And they come and sit in my office, and the first thing they do is put a picture, big frame picture of their daughter who has health challenges. And they start talking about their daughter having health challenge. She's epileptic, and she has seizures, a lot of them, 400 seizures a month. What does a seizure look like? Well, a seizure can be anything for Rayanne, that's her name. It can be anything from a blank stare where we lose her, where she just stares out into space for minutes at a time, or up into what's called a grand mal, which is a parent's worst nightmare, which is the violent thrashing on the floor. That happens up to 400 times a month. Well, why don't you go to the doctors? Well, of course, then my secretary comes in. I'm sorry, you've got to leave right now. It's okay. So that 5 minutes turns into 20 minutes, turns into an hour. It turns into 90 minutes that we sit there and we talk, and they've tried everything on the market. They've done 2 experimental therapies, and the only thing they think that could help that hasn't worked and helped other little epileptic girls and boys is a version of marijuana, not the marijuana that you think of a smokable kind, but a marijuana that's pressed into an oil, a marijuana that does not get you high. It has 0 THC content, but it's pressed into an oil, and then the oil is put under drops underneath the tongue, and it, for many instances, has controlled seizures. And so kids that have 300 and 400 seizures a month end up having 3 or 4 or 2 or 0 seizures. And next thing you know, I am the lead sponsor of a marijuana bill. It's Rayanne's bill. It's Senate Bill 1030. And for a conservative from Jacksonville to lead that, championed with Senator Rob Bradley of Fleming Island, and then another Senator, Jeff Brandes of Tampa, we came together and sold this bill. And we're excited. I'm telling you what, now I'm totally excited about it. Still, and scared to death. I have 3 kids of my own. Scared to death of marijuana. It's a powerful drug. It's addictive, and many will say it's so glamorous and sexy, and we need to have it. Still very tepid about turning it loose to our state. But for epileptic kids and others that have Parkinson's and MS, we're doing it. You talk about passion. I didn't have a relationship at all with these folks. And again, my plan, my secret plan was to kick them out of my office, and so I would never have to meet with them again. The passion. They had done the research. They brought me all of the stuff already needed. They had already contacted other states. They said, if Florida were to do this, this is what we're looking for. And I took it to my health staff and attorneys that looked at it, and we researched it. And so we did. We sold it, and she was there to testify and tell others her story. She worked it too. So that's something. Relationships are good, but passion is always a deliverable that makes a difference.
Was it hearing this particular child's story too that moved you? Is that something you would advise if somebody comes to you with a cause or an organization that's pushing for something to wrap the message around a particular person or child or family?
Well, I'm not a fan of using kids or anybody as props, and they didn't wheel their kid in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
That's been done before too. I've been picketed, and I've been that. I don't think that really has the intent, but it was just powerful to put their picture of their little girl, boom, and here's where we are. And I just kept seeing that could be my kid, and that, and I'm a dad. And that passion right there of listening and asking questions, and it worked out powerful. So yeah, if you could make your example. Whatever it is, we all have kids that are issues. I think that's one commonality of all of us. But if you have it and bring that, what it could mean, what it means if we do nothing, what it means if we do something, and what we could do. I think that's powerful.
Why don't we now ask Melanie, Trey, and then Senator Beans, if you could give your thoughts on what not to do. What are some horror stories you've experienced, and what advice do you have for the group on tactics and approaches they should avoid?
So never bring your executive director and your entire board to a story, especially when you're pitching a story, because it's not personal. And I cannot tell that story because I don't have the person. I have a similar story as Senator Bean, where it was a young man who was having seizures, and we go and we talk with the mom, and we had the Epileptic Foundation as well, who did provide some information, but it was centered on this young man and his story and his mom and all the struggles that they were going through. So, leave board members, maybe bring one official that can talk, because I'm gonna really be like, okay, tapping my foot. Like, first of all, I don't have a great story right now, and then I don't have the people necessary to tell the story and to get it across. So that's definitely one. Be very careful when you're emailing as well, because if you don't personalize an email to me, it's very difficult for me to weed through it, because I get so many. Not only from my coworkers, but everyone else pitching stories from all over the country. So if you can personalize it, if you let me know you kind of know my beat, or what my focus is, then I know that you've at least done your research and you know that I am the person you need to talk to. So those are probably two things that you don't want to do.
Trey.
I think this gets back to a point that Roy made in the last session, which is, don't treat an individual or a specific party or a specific interest group as a permanent enemy. Because I think in most of our work, those alliances can shift depending on an issue. And I think as we've looked over our work over the past few years, we've seen some really interesting alliances come together around high quality standards. We've seen other alliances come together around certain charter school issues, and we've seen other alliances that have completely fallen apart related to others. And so I think it's really about we try to be very respectful, understand that we and someone who disagrees with us on an issue can both be in service of kids and just approaching an issue from different perspectives. And I think that's really important, because I think once someone, particularly a legislator, but someone decides that you're just permanently an opponent, the door will just be closed. And I think that's a real challenge.
You're good, my friend. Well said. You all have something in large quantities that public officials want very badly. How about that? You've got it. You've got so much of it, you don't even realize what it is, and I'm about to tell you. And that is this: if you want to make sure that I never come to any of your events ever again, if you want to make sure I never come, invite me and then don't recognize me when I come to your annual meeting. That way, I'll never come again. I'll just quietly be too busy the next time. I've been to so many things where there's a big crowd, and I go, and they don't even recognize me. Or, I mean, speaking is one thing, and you should invite me to speak. I'll liven it up. But if you don't, at least acknowledge that Senator Bean is here, or Representative Cummings, or Representative Jones. We're pleased to allow. That's what it is. You've got unlimited. That's what we live for. We live for recognition. We live to, I don't want to say stroke our ego or something, but we're in the business of getting publicity. That's what we live for. And if you give that to us, oh my gosh, we'll come back. We'll come back next year. We'll do something for you. But I was at the Duval delegation. Has anybody been to our Duval delegation? Yeah, you've been there. That's where you're probably number 47 out of 78 speakers. You get 3 minutes. And there were so many groups that I worked with that when they were at that podium just for that 3 minutes, well, I spent a great deal of time with you on your issue last year. Would it kill you to say, Senator Bean, want to thank you for your work on helping the Kids Coalition? Did I get any of that? No, I didn't get it. Just, why wouldn't you say that? Or some did, and I'm telling you, they elevate. So when that person comes to see me next year, am I more likely to work with them? Because I know they're going to brag about me or brag, and I'm just saying me, I'm saying legislators in general. So if you want to make sure that that representative never does anything for you, never mention them again. And you'll be at the bottom of the list. Boy, but if we're elephants, throw us a peanut every now and then with that recognition, and we are going up, boy, you're going to be at the top of, we'd love to work with you, because that's it. That's it. How about that? Isn't that easy? And you've got so much of that, you didn't realize how much recognition you had in you, but you've got unlimited, and we are so hungry for it.
Excellent tip. And here's a follow-up for you that came from the questions put together beforehand. Could you explain the dynamics of a summer visit to you in Tallahassee compared with a visit during the session, and what this group could expect from each?
Is that me?
Yeah, and Trey might have some comments too, because he's been on the other side of that.
He's good. Trezor, I'm taking notes too, and he's very good. Trezor, I'm going to tell you something. Afterwards, we're going to meet, because I'm in the middle of launching an education foundation for Nassau County, and we've been copying a lot of things that you've done here in Duval. A summer visit is when we have a blank notepad, or a notepad that's not filled very much, and we're making our plans. Legislators are making their plans for the session. If you get an appointment with me in the summer, it's usually 15. Sometimes if we splurge, we'll spend 30 minutes with you. How does that sound? 30 minutes. And on crazy occasions, we go to lunch, and we'll have fun to sit down and really talk about the issue. It's a lot less pressure. We can talk about big picture ideas and your goals of what you want to accomplish. As we get closer to committee weeks, then those 30-minute sessions are cut down to maybe 10 or 5 minutes as we're going. You're meeting with staff a lot more often as we plan and we fine-tune. If you hooked us with a bill or something, then you're still going to get in, and we're still fine-tuning it. If I agree to do a bill for you, I still like to bring folks in, because I'm going to get grilled. So we'll have a private grilling session where we all get in the room, and the whole board or whoever it is grills me with tough questions. I ask them tough questions to prepare me, so I know and am knowledgeable about your issue and become an ambassador, as well as to be able to be put on the witness stand and defend it and get grilled. And so that's something exciting. As session launches, appointments are much more are tightly controlled. They go to 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you something, and I don't believe it even sometimes too, but when you have 40 appointments a day, 30 a day, when an appointment slot is walking the representative or the senator to committee, how about that? It's like a 2-minute walk or a 1-minute walk. And I'm a fast walker, but that's a valuable meeting time. That's the last time you talk to somebody before they're going to vote, but that's how tight it is. So the summer visit, it can build the relationship in the summer or the fall. Then that's where you want to start the relationship. Even better, if you go back to knocking on doors, when we're just forming the campaign. That's a big deal. I've got people that have done that for me, and they're always forever remembered and whatnot. So that's something exciting. But summer visits and building that relationship over the long haul is a great way to go forward. Now, there's a big change. I don't know if you know this. There's a big change. You know, the legislative session is always March and April. March and April each year. That's when the Florida legislature meets. Then you back it up. We're in committees January and February. This week we're off actually, but next week we'll be back in Tallahassee. Last week we're in Tallahassee. So the 3 to 2 months leading into the legislative session is committees where you meet on and off. Next year, we've got a different format that will begin next year. The legislative session in election years, so even numbered years, the legislative session will begin in January, February. So this time next year, we'll be in the legislative session. So this year in September, October, November, December are going to be committee weeks. So that moves our summer up a little bit. So you need to be planning right now. Of course, there's still time this session. It's getting tight, but I'd say never give up hope. But then think about it. You've got a plan or a legislative action to take. Now's the time for even next year, because it's going to be upon us very quickly.
All righty, Trey.
I think the senator hit on most of the key things. I mean, I've been in some of those walk meetings, possibly even with you, and it's about how tightly, very specific. I'm asking that you do this specific thing, and it can't be. Let me tell you about my issue, because there's just not time for it. It is 2 or 3 minutes, very very direct, and here's exactly. I need you to vote for this or against this, and here's why, and that's it, and then you're done, and that's sort of the extent of it. So I think, as you said, Senator, the off season is really the time to get to know someone, attend events that they hold, hold your own events, invite them to attend, recognize them when they're able to make it, and really start to develop that relationship in a very deep way.
Excellent. And Melanie, why don't you give us your final thoughts, and then we'll go to the questions from the audience.
Yeah, I think when you're trying to pitch stories and think of things that are relevant and will impact people, that you really have to think about how you're going to get that person to listen to you. How are you going to get their attention? Because that's the first thing. So if you can figure out who you want to talk to, make sure the timing is right, make your pitch very concise and thorough, pitch it in a way that I can actually tell the story, then that's how you get the attention. And then again, just kind of nourish those relationships, because once you have a relationship with me or another reporter, then they're always going to come to you for different stories. And I know for me, I do health stories, I do a restaurant report, and then I'm on this massive morning show. We're always looking for content. And I also think one last thing to consider is that the timing is everything as well. Like if it's dental month, then that's the time to pitch that story. Or if you see something that broke overnight that's a national story that we can localize too, and you have an expert on your board who can provide us with that expertise, then call the news station that morning and say, hey, I saw this. I know you guys have this morning show. Would you like A, B, and C to be an interview? We'll say yes, or the night before, because we're always looking for experts for stories that are relevant and happening now. So, because I know there are so many wonderful stories and I wish we could tell more of them. But a lot of times we just don't get them pitched, or if they are pitched, they're just not pitched in a way that we can actually execute them.
All right. Excellent. Got a lot of questions from the
If
audience.
anyone has any questions, we'll still keep coming around. Just write it on the note card and we'll come.
Here's one. We would like more information on the Duval delegation. Is there a website, phone number, contact info? Great question.
The Duval delegation is made up of all of the senators and representatives serving Duval County. We have at least, part of our rules, we have at least one meeting, and mainly it's more than one, but our rules say we will always have one meeting per year leading into the session for a time for public input. And that's when I see others that have nodded that have been there. There's just so many speakers, we limit you to 3 minutes, but it's just a way to get your issue out there. It's based out at City Hall. We have a staff person who's our coordinator and liaison. Her name is Paula. And if you go to the Duval County's website, I think there's a link somewhere on there, the Duval delegation person, Paula. If if you want to schedule a time, if you want to, I mean, it's a quick way. She has everybody's emails and can get messages to us and take advantage of the Duval delegation.
Okay, here's one for anybody jump in. How do you handle short meetings with people you don't know? How important is relationship building? You also kind of spoke to the importance of that already, I think, but how do you handle a quick meeting with someone you don't know well?
Well, I think your story about the family with the medical marijuana was a great example. I think the other way is to get to know, all of the representatives and senators have their bios online. You can look and see who are their campaign contributors. You can look and see how they voted on similar issues. You should know, they may not know you, but you should know them very well and try to find some way to hook into something that gives you an identity. And that may be, well, Mr. Jones is my board member, and I know he supported you extensively, or it may be, you know what, we both have kids that are in 3rd grade. It could be a number of different things, but try to find something really quick.
Alrighty. Here's one for
I'll tell you what,
Oh, go ahead.
let me add on that. And I didn't want to do this early in the meeting, but I am going to give you the magic phrase. I could, after my legislative career is over, who knows when that'll be, it could be sooner than later, but I could charge thousands of dollars from telling people the magic phrase when you talk to a legislator or somebody in public office. You see, you think they know everything about your issue, and they don't. But you don't want to make that assumption that they don't know anything, and most of the time they don't. Here is the magic phrase. You can write it down, and I would advise you to do so. It's not, I need to, Tracer Art is thinking about copywriting it. Here's the magic phrase, how Jennifer knows. The magic phrase to lead in that first meeting is this: Senator Bean, as you may know. That leads you in to give a 20-second history of the problem, 20-second history of your organization as you may. Of course, you know this, Senator Bean, that Healthy Start has been around for 50 years. It's the leading provider of support services to pregnant women. We are the leader, and we have changed the lives of thousands of families. But you also probably know that we're facing a shortfall this year. And unless the legislature steps in, we are going to shut down, or whatever that is. You see what I just did there? I opened the door. I briefed the senator or representative on my problem. I didn't assume, but half the time people come to talk to me, I have no idea what they're talking about. None whatsoever. I have no idea. But then when does it get so late in the conversation that I say, wait, let's go back, and we spend time. So if you want to make it quick and concise, that first meeting, the magic phrase. Thank you for meeting with us. As you may know, bam, that's your intro. It is amazing.
That's
It's
great.
awesome.
That's great advice. I just have to tell a little story that's sort of related to this. In the local mayor's race, probably a lot of you know who's running for mayor. One of the candidates, Phil Bishop, on the city council, when he appeared on the show I host some time ago, I said something, or I asked a question. I don't even remember what I said, but clearly I said something really stupid because Bill Bishop said, well, I was advised before appearing on this program that the cardinal rule is to never contradict the host, but I'm going to contradict you. And he went on to tell me how I was so wrong. And it actually really endeared me to him because he's just a completely plain spoken person. And it was sort of a window for me to realize, people are actually sitting down and being advised on what they're supposed to do when they come in here. Wow. Which is sort of what we're doing now. And that sort of leads on a follow-up, because Senator Bean just said, here's the magic phrase. And here's a question from someone in this group. What are key phrases we should avoid when we're advocating an issue?
Anybody? I'll say, I don't want to talk too much, but go ahead.
I'm gonna start it.
Okay.
You're doing a great
You know what? I don't like mean people. Mean people. We can still disagree on the issue and convince me if I'm wrong. Convince me, But when you call me a name or hiss at me or boo, and you would think it would never, it happened. I mean, I had the worst meeting ever 2 weeks ago at a delegation meeting in Nassau County. The vote didn't go the way they wanted, and it was just hard. It was difficult, and nice. We could be nice, be passionate, be nice. It'll get you everywhere. Flattery will get you a lot of places, but being mean and because Trezar mentioned it, the issue that you don't like me on this vote, you're the next vote you may need me, and then if you burn that bridge, you burn the bridge.
I could kind of say, I think especially for media, and I do a lot of interviews with doctors, is kind of like a know-it-all, someone that talks down to me and thinks that I don't know anything. And I'm like, I've done 20 stories on heart surgeries. Like, I have an idea what a stent is. I'm good. And it's like, so I like his way of going about it is, as you may know, not that you're feeding my ego, but you're assuming that I'm an intelligent person and I'm coming to you well-researched, and I'm not just popping up like, hey, oh, you're a doctor, cool. So I think, give me an opportunity to help you help the story, because you may, go and give me all these stats and statistics that I have now just kind of, they're in the back of my head because you haven't given me a story that's going to support those facts and statistics, which will take 30 seconds, but I need the meat to be the story. So, give the person opportunity to be an expert on what they do while you're an expert on the information that you're providing, but it's a team.
The only thing I'll add, I think this goes sort of to both of these people, these other people next to me. One, it goes back to this not making assumptions, but also not casting a whole lot of blame. I think particularly my former life was in media, and so as a print reporter, and I think the media gets blamed for writing bad stories. They never give us any good press. Well, they have a job to do, and it's an important role. And sometimes I think organizations, you have to sort of buck up and take your punches from time to time if you do something wrong, and stand up for it and own that, and recognize that that's their role is to play that sort of check on government, on nonprofits, on for-profits, and I think you get a lot. I think as a nonprofit we take our licks from time to time, but we stand up and say, here's why we did that, and people will disagree with us, and sometimes the media will interview those people who disagree with us, and that's okay. But to blame them and say, well, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have written that story, unless I'm sure you've gotten some people who said, come on, and say,
Never.
Why did you guys take this angle on this? I mean, there's ways to sort of have that conversation in a very respectful manner that doesn't say, well, it's all your fault and you're a bad person for doing it that way.
Here's one that came from a couple of you, asking, how do you think this area has improved over the years due to advocacy from groups like United Way, JPEF, and the Northeast Florida Healthy Start Coalition? The impact of these groups.
This is probably a broad statement, but I think we've really expanded our voice in Tallahassee as a region. I think that comes from some of the folks who we've had in our legislative delegations over the years. But I think we've gotten to a place where it used to be, I feel like, we go to Tallahassee, everything was all about South Florida. And now I think Northeast Florida has a defined sort of role and place that people listen to the voice of Northeast Florida around a whole wide range of issues, whether it be children's issues or economic development issues or any number of other things. And I think that's so it's not a specific issue, but I think in general our voices are better heard now than they would have been 10 years ago.
Melanie, would you agree in terms of Healthy Start? You're on the board of Healthy Start.
Well, and I also think it improves our image, how you're looked at not only in Florida, but around the country. People look at Jacksonville and a lot of times they don't really know much about us, or they'll say, oh, the Jaguars, they are not a good team, or it's like just, southern or northern Georgia or southern Georgia. Yeah, southern Georgia, some negative connotations, backwoods, so you hear all these things. And so I think, when you have organizations like Healthy Start Coalition, where you can show statistics that you're making a difference and that you're improving the lives of babies and mothers, then the conversations change, and then you find yourselves on these lists of the best romantic cities in the country. Jacksonville's one of them, or that healthiest, which we're not on, but we'd love to be. So I think image is very important, and that's what these groups do as a whole, is that these stats, they just make people look at Northeast Florida in a different way.
And Senator Bean, you talked about the Charlotte's Web, the medical marijuana. Here's another question.
Let me ask you the last question real quick, because I can do it in one word. You asked what the difference have we all made together. And that word, one word answer, it's immeasurable. It's beyond words what you have accomplished and what we've all accomplished as a team. You know, we look at, she says we get statistics and results, and I get report cards of all kinds of measurements all over. And I always say we're going to move the needle on, for instance, it's how many babies survive per 100,000 of births. And when you move the needle just a little bit, and we have moved that needle, that's thousands of babies' lives that have been touched by what we've done right here. So never sell yourself short. Not everybody, talk about passion, we've all got it. I'm preaching to the choir when I say have passion. And you're going to say, preach on, Senator Bean, but we do it. We do. Y'all do a phenomenal job. And I would put your folks up, these folks right here, against anybody in the state for terms of passion and what we do. So immeasurable. And hats off to everybody that what we do and what we all do collectively.
And here's a follow-up regarding that. Any children's issues legislation that you're looking at for the upcoming session? Anything else involving children that's on your radar?
Let me come back to that.
Okay.
I've got bills, and I want to mention a handful. I think we do. I need to figure out which ones, where we are. I chair healthcare. And so anything related to healthcare, particularly with Medicaid, with the Agency for Healthcare Administration or the Department of Health, comes through that committee. And so we see it, and we're always looking at what we can do better to increase access, affordability, increase care in our state to make us a healthier state. So when Melanie Lawson reports on the top cities, Jacksonville is one of them in the healthiest category.
Here's one for Trey. Has there been an issue that didn't go your way? How did you regroup to address it? What did you learn? What lesson did you learn?
There's a lot of issues that don't necessarily go our way. But I think that one that we're continuing. I mean, last year I mentioned school grades earlier, sort of joking, but I think last year we sort of started this multi-year push around school accountability systems and with the changes in standards and testing. And there was an accountability bill that passed that had a couple of things we liked and a couple of things we didn't like. And I think there's likely to be something coming back this year again to sort of continue to tweak that. I mean, one thing about legislation is the first time it goes through, it's never the way everybody likes it. So it continue, and we're actively paying a lot of attention to that, and are hoping to see this year. We built up some good information, both for legislators and for folks like the Florida Department of Education about why are we so concerned about the measurement of growth between an old FCAT and a new Florida Standards Assessment, and what have other states done when they've gone through these types of changes, and what are some ways that help strengthen the accountability system, which we feel is very much on shaky ground right now by delay. And so trying to sort of craft our argument a little in the broader political context, the broader educational context has changed significantly over the last 12 months in relation to testing and accountability issues. So we see a window of opportunity there, but it's still, we have to see sort of how things progress over the next couple of months.
All right, let's, and this is for Melanie and all of you. And by the way, the hashtag is Jack's Kids 2015 for today. How has social media changed the conversation around advocacy, and do you pay attention to it?
Oh, yeah. If we don't, we miss so many stories. I mean, we have people that we follow, and sometimes it's just, 5 words that make you pick the phone up and make a call. So we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Pinterest. I mean, wherever you can post that gets a following, we're going to cover it. I mean, it's amazing, especially video. I mean, viral video, it's so ridiculous. Some of the things we run, and these are people you would never know existed, and they're doing things. So, I mean, I think anytime you can get people talking, you can get people liking, you can get people sharing, that's something that we are always going to pick up on. And then let us know. One example is, there's like a resale store with Fifi's in Bernardino Beach. They came on our show. They were having a dollar sale, and we just did a little interview. And she wrote me this long letter, and she's like, "We have video of people lined up around the building, and we just posted on our Facebook page. It's been shared 40,000 times. I mean, this is little Fifi's in Bernardino Beach." And so she's like, "It's going viral." I'm like, "Okay, great." But I mean, so it just shows that those types of things get our attention, and then we would run that, and that's even more for them. So in an advocacy group, it's that same kind of mindset that if you have something that's viral or interesting that will get people talking, social media gets our attention sometimes more than the news wires do, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Gentlemen.
From our seat, I think it's made it easier to get people engaged, which is wonderful, and it's something we really push for. But it's also, I think, complicated advocacy in a couple of ways. There's a large percentage of the American public, not just the Florida, that feels like just clicking on a like button or just subscribing to an email list is advocacy, or maybe going on to that CapWiz page and sending another form email to someone like Senator Bean. That stuff has increasingly less. It worries me because I think we've lost some of that recognition. That really it comes down to boots on the ground and going and talk with people and make a logical, rational case. I mean, all that sort of mass type of advocacy, online advocacy, I think can help sometimes, and we saw it help here with a little bit with the renaming of Westside High School, which was formerly Forest High School. Big Change.org petition, but in the end, it took people on the ground having conversations and making things happen. I think that I worry about what happens, over the next couple of generations when all of a sudden it's just like, if we had 10,000 people like this, something's gonna happen. No, nothing's gonna happen because 10,000 people like a Facebook post. You might get a little bit of media out of it, but it really takes much more.
It's more than that. Interesting.
We do the same thing you're doing. We try to get our message out, and I use Constant Contact. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's great. It manages your email blasts, and we debate in our office. Do we send out too many things because we don't want to spoil it? We don't, is it meaty enough? Is this enough to have a newsletter? I don't want to do a newsletter every month because if it doesn't have any content or any meat, then I don't want to sit out and ruin the process. But so we debate that all the time. So it's a very powerful tool. I mean, so much so, social media, YouTube is so powerful. You could fill your bathtub up with milk and Fruit Loops, eat them on camera, and the next thing you know, you're interviewing the President of the United States. What a great country we live in to be able to do that and use social media to get that word out.
That sounds like something my
true.
8-year-old would love to try.
Yeah.
Well, I think this panel's been terrific. I think your questions were terrific. How about a big round of applause?
As we come up, there is a bill I want to tell you about on kids. Okay, it came to me, and it's Trezara will like it too because it's about testing our kids. So I have a bill that says we need to have less testing, better testing at a better time. We test a lot. And so we're going to limit how often we test our kids. I've got is 10 days enough? 10 days or 60 hours, don't you think? I mean, if they're only in school 180 days, I think 10 is the limit we put on there. We also say it needs to be a better test. If we're going to test less, we need to have a better test. And here's the other thing. My kids, and I've got kids in public school right now, we test these organizations, we test in March in some instances, but we still have April and May left of school. So what are we doing? Well, we're doing videos then. Why not test at the very end of school or later? And we're doing a new test, so now's the perfect time. So we have that bill. Trezar is going to bend my ear afterwards about what we can do with that. But that's something we want to do for kids. So I'm sorry. Back to you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Let's give another round of applause to the moderator. Recognize our panel. I just want to give them a nice thank you as well.
Great. Hooray, all right. All right.
So we're a little bit ahead of schedule, but we're still going to give you a little bit of a break. So right now we've got some refreshments just outside. But after that, at 2:15, we have 2 breakout sessions.